Well, hello and welcome to PM Express. This is one of the shows where I hope maybe production will open the phone lines because I want to hear your take on it. You see, as a country, we have developed this habit where we are unable to nip things in the bud. We wait for it to fester and it sort of gets out of control, and then we go into the firefighting approach. But this is one thing which will come home to roost, and indeed it has started coming, and it's coming in a very, very ugly fashion. What am I talking about? I'm talking about the proliferation of small arms, robberies with arms. And sometimes you wonder why, because some of the things that they go in for don't have that much value, and yet you look at the massacre, the death, the maiming, and the hurt they leave behind, it does not add up. The criminals are getting more braver, they're getting more daring, and the disasters they are leaving behind is getting worse. Some time back, we were told that there were about 2 million illegal guns roaming up and down the country. Some had come in from Libya after the war, some had come in from Ivory Coast after the war, and we had manufactured our own. And so there was an amnesty to say, look, bring your guns, just drop them in the police stations and go, we won't do anything to you. Did it work? Where is it going? And are we going to use our usual antic of just sitting and waiting until it gets worse? Because this is life and death. This is not the usual kiosk by the roadside that you wait for a slum to develop. No, these are criminals with guns who will come in for you and I. You don't know when. So what do we do in such a situation? How do we educate the public, and how do we stem this cycle before it's too late? That's if it's not too late. Well, my name is Nana Ansakwa, the fourth Chief of the Little Republic of Akwamu Dumasa. When I come back, I'm talking to a gentleman who knows a thing or two about these guns and the system and how it is that we can't stem it. Don't go away. Well, my guest on the show, but I can't find him because he's my senior. As you know, we find all our first-time guests, but that's my senior, so I cannot find him. Jones Boteye Apple, Executive Secretary, National Commission on Small Arms and Light Weapons, and also a Bleubi, you know.
Yes.
And also a Bleubi, trying to get guns off the streets and our towns and in the country. Jones, you're welcome.
Thank you very much, Nana. It's a pleasure.
Yeah.
To meet you for the first time.
I know.
Yeah, I watch you on television every time, and I'm glad to.
We're glad
you're here. In person for us to discuss a very vexed issue.
Yes.
It's all over the world. It's a vexed issue everywhere, even in the very stabilized democracies. The proliferation of weapons is a very thorny and vexed issue.
You see, all over the world, there are, the advanced countries where at least they have the ability to, sometimes go in and watch the CNNs and they're moving, and within a few minutes, I mean, 95% of the time, the culprit, will be found. Even the 5%, maybe 3% will commit suicide, and they will find. But here, it comes up in the news, very gory, and then they disappear into thin air. I think I'll just leave the open, preliminary comments to you before I start bombarding you with my comments. How did we get here?
Yeah, we got here because of a number of factors. In West Africa, we are all at various levels of, if I would call it, political development. We have countries that are fairly stable democracies. We have countries that are conflict government, or they are just emerging from conflict. And we have some countries that we can say are military. in addition to the political climate that we find ourselves in, if you look at the social context, you look at the way we treat natural resources, galamsey, and then you look at income inequality, all these factors have a way of impacting the flow of weapons across West Africa. So that's what we see, where we see a lot of weapons in our countries. Hitherto, most of the weapons were for social and cultural purposes. You are a chief, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. They are to celebrate our heritage. And so people acquire them for prestige. These days, it has changed. A study that we did in 2016 or so, a large number of the people we interviewed told us that they want weapons for self-protection. So it looks like the social and cultural reasons why people own weapons is now subservient to self-protection and personal security. I don't know what we can do, but what we all need to do as a country, the media inclusive, is try to put in place some kind of assurance mechanisms to our people. Because increasingly, I sit in my office, I'm a control and regulating institution. I don't license guns. The law that we have in Ghana says that for one to own a gun in Ghana is a privilege and not a right like you find in the United States. And so the Minister of Interior is the one that gives you per permit, and the police licenses or the police enforces. And so if you disobey or go against the terms and conditions of your permit, the Minister for the Interior can actually come and take your gun without assigning you reasons. And so the recent incident that took place in the eastern region, where a grandfather left his gun, and then a 6-year-old grandchild took the gun and shot a 4-year-old son. It is that unfortunate, but that against the terms and conditions of allowing that man to own a gun. One of the requirements in our law, in our LI 200, 1962, is that in addition to any other thing, you have to have a safe place where you can keep your weapon. It is a requirement. Mm-hmm. I guess we have not enforced this rigidly like South Africa and other jurisdictions, where they actually come and inspect your facility that you have. And so in South Africa, for instance, they want to come and see the safe, like what you find in accountant's room, where you keep the weapon. And then one of the things too that incident revealed is the lack of training for people who have guns. A lot of people are there. I've met people who have guns. They've had these guns for 16 years, 20 years. They've not fired it before. It's under their beds. And some of them, they think that if they are confronted, or if an armed robber or an intruder comes into their house, they can use their gun. That is a complete, I don't know what word, but false impression. You can't. Gun usage is like driving. It has some muscle thing. If you are driving a car and you are changing the gears, you don't watch to change to first, second, third. The same applies to a gun. If you don't fire your gun, you keep your gun under your bed. If you see a target and it's even 2 meters, if you fire, you will miss. And so what the Eastern Region incident revealed is the issue about the need for the Small Arms Commission, the police, to now start some kind of education. Because if you are a trained bearer of a firearm, first of all, you have to have a safe and secure place to keep your weapon. You don't keep a loaded magazine or a weapon loaded and you leave it there. That is a no-no. It's one of the things that gun ownership abhors. You don't keep a loaded gun and leave it, no matter what the threat or the perceived danger is. Number three, I mean, apart from the fact that the gun, you have to, anytime you leave your gun, you separate the weapons from the ammo. A lot of people have criticized practitioners in gun control that if I'm confronted, when would I have the time to find the weapon and then load it and put the magazine in, cock it before you engage? But that is one of the cardinal rules of bearing a firearm. You don't keep the ammo and the firearm or the small arm in the same place. You separate them. So clearly, when I was called on the Koforidua or the Eastern Region incident, clearly it's too bad for the man. I heard the interview, but I was worried that, look, he's breached a number of protocols when it comes to gun ownership.
But maybe an unfair question, but let me just try and see. I mean, 6-year-old, was the barrel not too heavy for the child to carry? I mean, it must be a very strong 6-year-old.
But when I heard it, I also heard a family member who spoke to Joy FM and some of the media houses. He said the gun was even taller or bigger than the boy, yet, and the gun was hidden under the bed. But one of the things is that you have to make sure you practice gun safety. As a matter of fact, you only cock your gun when you see a target. If you are passing, if you see a slippery surface, you don't fire. If you are passing a fence, you make sure you put your gun under and before you slip under the fence. You don't hold your gun whilst you're trying to go under them. So there are a number of precautions that you need to take as a firearms bearer. You know, in Ghana, the requirement is that 18 years and above, you are physically fit, mentally sound. They do character checks, I mean, referencing on you or check background checks. They come, if not come at any security notice, the weapon is issued to you. You renew it every year, provided you can pay. For a pistol, it's 150 Ghana cedis. For a pump, any other weapon, it's 5 cedis.
5 cedis.
And in fact, the permit to repair a firearm, I believe it will come there. You asked me about blacksmiths by all means. The permit to repair a firearm is free. It's free. And we beg them in the regions that if you know how you have the skill to repair a firearm, just go to the police and renew your license. The law says that if anybody brings his firearm for you to repair, inspect the person's permit, so criminals will not bring their weapons. These are all things that I believe we have to find a way of enforcing.
Let me ask, I mean, it means there's a lot of demand. If so much guns are in the system, it means there must be demand, otherwise...
I agree with you, Nana, perfectly.
And is the demand solely because we are insecure?
Is a demand and supply. We have something we call conflict entrepreneurs who move weapons to places where there are conflicts. So his business is that he has weapons, he has a source of weapons. You look at where a country that is vulnerable and brings their weapons. And one of the things that, well, but these are all known to all of us in this arena, that look, in the Western world, they call it transnational organized crime. This is an organized crime. So you have people who are informants, you have people who actually execute, you have people who implement, you have people who manage the people who are shot or who get sick on escapades. And so it's a whole world that I believe our security services need to look at. It's a whole world that we can, what we see are just symptoms of the real problems.
The issue of, repairing firearms and checking licenses before maybe you repair the person's firearm, I mean, is it something that you're hoping to legislate, or?
It is a legislation. It's an ILI 200.
Oh, so it's already law.
It's already law. The issue is about the enforcement of the law, because some of these blacksmiths live very far away from
civilization.
From city center. That is very. But I can assure you, the current CID boss is very proactive about a lot of these things that we have allowed to be dormant for a very long time. And in a recent briefing that he gave us, he said a lot of very progressive things that she's doing, that I believe when she's fully able to implement them, to sanitize the entire import-export pump actions. Anybody gets pump actions are very lethal. These are firearms that can fire automatically, semi-automatically, 6 rounds. You understand? So they are not semi-automatic or automatic rifles like the AR-15s or the M16s.
But they can equally cause.
But they can equally, yeah. I mean, if you get something that can fire 6 rounds automatically, you just pump it and you can fire 6. You know you can.
I'm going to take a break. When I come back, is it, are we getting to the wild, wild west where every other home is going to own a gun, and every confrontation or every robbery, every little misunderstanding will have to be solved by a barrel of a gun? Is that where we are getting to? Don't go away. Well, thank you very much for staying. And we're looking at the amount of guns we have in the system, both homemade guns, both imported guns, and some that are just strictly for military or the services, in the hands of civilians who have not trained to use them. And I just want to find out, are we getting to the stage where every robbery, would include a gun, and every misunderstanding would include a gun? Small Arms Commission, I'm sure you've done researches and stuff. Are we getting there, or?
From the research that we have is that we have a very serious cultural and social attachment to our guns. And so you'll find in a lot of communities, particularly in the northern part of Ghana, your accession to adulthood is measured by your ability or the gun that you have. And so what it means is that if you don't have a gun, then you are not a man. You understand? And the gun has its own relevance. For example, you go to places like Bimbila, we are told, and in some of the traditional societies, when a female died, they announce it by firing 4 shots. Wow. And then when a male dies, it's about 3 shots. Why it is, I don't know. But we've had such an attachment to guns, as I say, historically, culturally, and traditionally we've had. I believe a lot of big men, politicians sit at their beds and they find people holding guns, firing musketry. Those days it used to be flint guns. These days it's pump action guns that are being fired. And so it is not about the number of weapons that are in the system that matters to us. For us at the Small Arms Commission, the issue for us is the abuse of the gun. I'm saying so because if you look at countries like Israel, you look at countries like Norway, you look at countries like Denmark, where they have compulsory military service, almost everybody has a gun. And yet they don't use their guns to kill themselves. So there must be something particularly worrying about why, particularly in recent times, that the youth have become extremely brave, extreme bravado.
I hear it's been linked to the overdose of tramadol, tramadol. Yeah, so they are getting too high. But this is the number 0032 0302 211 691 or 692 0302 211 691 or 692. Let's hear your take, your concern, your solutions. Did the amnesty work?
So let me give you the context within which the amnesty was declared. The Small Arms Commission had commissioned a research in 2014 for a research to be conducted to give us an understanding of the extent of proliferation in Ghana. They had done a proliferation where 10,000 questionnaires were floated. Out of the 10,000, 17% of the population said they own firearms. So they looked at the 17% against the then population of Ghana. 2010 population census, if you take 17% of our population, it came to about almost 4.2 million. But when they took the adult population, 70% of it was about almost 2.4, 2.3 something. And so they reached the conclusion that about 2.3 million people had guns. Now, when you go on our firearms, the police database, the records that they have is that we have close to about 1.1 million registered. And so if you take that 1.1 million from that 2.3 or 2.4, you get about 1.2 thereabouts guns that are in illicit. That's what the research revealed. These are surveys, these are statistics. They use tools to make extrapolations, etc., in order to help the kind of interventions that we fashion. Some of them are quite direct findings, and so we can take those ones on board. But in terms of the figure, the 2.3 million figure that came out, that is the basis of the figure. But as I was explaining, I think what we need to interrogate as a country or as a people is why the abuse of firearms. I'll come to why military type weapons are available.
Let's speak to Dan in Bolga, and then we'll come to that. Okay, we dropped. I heard the line is dropped, so let me come back to you.
So the problem of why people abuse the gun, as far back as President Kufuor's time, they have found that unemployment is a big problem. As I explained in my intro, income inequality is one of the main vectors of weapon proliferation. If you go to Jamaica, you go to Sri Lanka, you go to other places where weapons are awash, one of the things that fuel, because look, these young men must leave, so they either attach themselves to polka, they bandwagons, and then when the polka season is over, they find something else to use their guns for. Some of them are into land guards. When they do land guards in the afternoon, in the evening, they turn into something else, another kind of thing. And so what we need to, as I said, what I can sit here immediately and tell you is that quite apart from everything, is the income issue, the unemployment issue.
Let's go to Bolga again and speak to Humphrey. Hello, Humphrey.
Hello. Good evening.
Good evening, Humphrey. Do you have a gun?
No, please.
Okay, let me hear your let me hear your take.
Okay. Good evening. I'm speaking from Bogatanga.
Sure.
No, please. Good. Please. We are in Africa. And then we are learning from the white man's culture. We see on American streets students demonstrating. Students take guns to kill their fellow students in the classroom or their masters. Why? It's because when we were younger, there was caning in the classroom. When you hit a friend, a master will quit your buttocks. And then you become happy because your friend has been caned for hitting you. Now caning is even delicate in the classroom. We are taking it completely from the classroom. So even masters are even afraid to touch the students or pupils in the classroom. So a student who is aggravated, go back home to look for the response, come back to hit a classmate or hit a teacher because it's becoming on lawless country. We have to go back.
Thank you very much. Going back to discipline. That's a bit technical.
Yeah, so as I was saying, the unemployment question needs to be addressed. What we also need, what we do at the Small Arms Commission really is in collaboration with the international party to look at the supply. You raised the question that how come civilians have access to military type weapons? You are very right in that, in that observation, because most of these military type weapons are not sold on the open market, except in America. But military type weapons are sold to states to defend you and I, for defense purposes, for internal security like police, for prison guards, for correctional purposes, for immigration, border guards, etc. And so if you find any civilian, particularly in our part of the world, who has a military type weapon, the AK-47, it is, for me, I conservatively will conclude that this is a weapon that has been stolen from a state armory. Wow.
Let me go to a flower. Emmanuel. Hello, Emmanuel.
Yes.
Do you have a gun?
I don't have a gun.
You don't have a gun. Let me hear your yeah.
Yes, I don't have a gun.
Sure.
Yes, I'm just wondering where, as a state, looking at us, who we are to register these guns to private ownership. Just as we made a mistake from the nation building, we register land to private ownership. And today, there are lots of issues that we don't even know where to go for it. I can't just believe that as people, we cannot sit down to say this is not working for us, and we can really stand on our feet to say that we are dropping this thing. For example, when you go to the House of Legislature, we all know that the laws that say that the giver and the receiver are all guilty. This law allows the state, allows us to be corrupt. At the same time, we come out every day wasting our energy in the airways and everything talking about corruption, knowing that even there are some issues we need to readdress. So for me, gun does not protect one who holds a gun. Because when a criminal wants to attack you, criminal knows that he's going to attack you. You don't even know that somebody is planning evil against you or wants to take your life. So your gun with you cannot protect you. Now, the question is that why should the state allow the registration of a gun to private ownership? I don't get it. This is where it's unfortunate that today we are hearing from the security services where they have to give guns or involved into armed robberies and whatever. We have to.
Very concerned citizen there. You're talking about stealing guns from the armory and everything. We're looking at Tramadol, but generally, are the criminals getting a bit too violent?
I think so. I think so. And what we need to, I think people are getting too violent, and people are becoming very impatient, and people have become very callous and wicked. Our society, increasingly, I believe the youth of today is becoming insensitive. As your intro said, they kill for nothing. So, like you find in America where they can kill for $20, $10. I think our society, people stab people, shoot people for mobile phones, etc. Don't we value human life? Did you create it? And so I think that probably, these are things that we are considering in our office. Maybe we and the Peace Council, the Small Arms Council and the Peace Council, need to look at some kind of national assurance, safety, messages to put out there, because people are getting too wicked.
Let me go to Seri. Festus. Hello. Hi, Festus. In Seri, you must have a gun. Do you have a gun?
No, I have a gun, but I have a problem.
Good.
I want to, sincerely speaking, I don't have it, but I want to own a one, because what is going on is very serious.
I'm losing you.
Very good. Look at the way people are using guns in this state. You hear a police person killing people here and there because they have a gun, because they use a gun so they can kill at any time. They don't even call them and prosecute them and then ask them. So people are scared. Almost everybody wants to own a gun because you don't know what will happen to you in the next, especially those who live in the rural areas. You go to farm and there's not of telling here, a gun sign, you are not careful. You hit by it. Today,
We need to find out. I was even expecting the officer who is sitting beside you to tell us more about what they do and how they do their work. A lot of people have got a lot of guns with them without proper education about how to use a gun, how to own a gun. You sit in Accra, you talk, but what about those who live in Delbekwa, those who live in Kaboso, those who live in the hinterland, those who live in far away? We need education.
Education. I mean, are we overwhelmed?
Oh no, we're not overwhelmed. I mean, for a country that is close to, I believe we are close to 30 million. For the kind of quantity of weapons that we have, I think it's manageable. What we need to do is up our game. We are not overwhelmed. We're not like America where you find one person almost owning an armory. I mean, we don't have that in Ghana.
So what would be the plan? Because it seems to be a bit out of control. Some of the news coming out now, helpless. And I think there's a great percentage who get away with it.
I think, first of all, what we need, as I stated, is that a lot of people are now owning the weapons because of safety, personal protection. And so we are happy with what we are hearing from the police. They are not there yet, but they are doing their best to make sure that they try and assure Ghanaians that they can protect them. I believe the reason why we have a very reduced rate of gun incidents in countries like Canada and co, and those Norway and Sweden and co, is because of the response time. Mm-hmm. The last time I listened to the police service, I think they are aiming, I think they said they do about 17 minutes, and they want to reduce it to further, probably 10 minutes. If you call them within 10 minutes, they should be able to get to the point of distress. And one of the presentations I heard when they told us, the briefing that they gave us, was that in the is it the London Bridge, the gentleman, the terrorist guy who was using cars to, I think when they called, the standard time for the British police was 5 minutes, but in that case they did it in 2 minutes, 30 seconds or so. And so they also up their game. So that's the first point. You see, a lot depends on the posturing of the security services in the country for people to exhibit this level of insensitivity and bravado. You understand? The message must be sent out there that, look, we will crush you if you... And as you rightly said, we also need to up our ballistics and forensic examination. I mean, in the Western world, you will do it, but they will catch you. But in Ghana, you can't say that for sure. The police, as a result of a number of tools that they use, are able to get to the bottom of most of the crimes that we have in Ghana. But as you rightly know, a lot of these things also go unattended to.
Let me go Kumasi and speak to Felix. Hello, Felix. Thank you very much for calling. Let me hear you. Your reception is really bad. Okay, Felix, I was losing you. I mean, Small Arms Commission, I mean, has it become a disappointment?
No, you know...
The effects are not trickling down.
The effects are not trickling down because fighting proliferation, as I said, is a transnational organized crime. It's a cross-border crime. So if Ghana is working and Cote d'Ivoire is not working, you can't fight it. If Ghana is working and Burkina is not working. And so the question that you asked, majority of the weapons that we find here, the assault rifles, they come from our neighboring countries. I can't sit here and disclose the countries where these weapons are coming from. But these are weapons that we trace them to the countries where they come from. But the point is that in ECOWAS trying to construct their own mechanism for fighting proliferation, they themselves did not even come up with a mechanism on how to resolve some of these issues. So I find a weapon, let's say the weapon is come from Liberia. I have the weapon, I ask Liberia Commission, I found this weapon with marking on my ABC. They check records and then confirm to me that yes, this is a weapon. Then what? So those are some of the issues that we need to grab. I've raised that at the ECOWAS level, that we need to find a way. You know, sometimes what you also don't want to do is trying to embarrass your neighbor. But a lot of weapons are in the system that are not from Ghana. They are weapons that have come from. And let me share a joke. I was having a conversation with somebody at the United Nations, and we were talking about this Fulani thing. I say, West Africa, this thing is featuring in a lot of your literature about this nomadic herdsmen. And they asked me, you mean somebody can move cattle from Niger and come to Ghana without your border officials seeing them? And they laugh. For them, it's impossible. Unless you go and dig the tunnels that the Mexicans do with their whatever.
The drugs and the
yes. The ones.
Let's go to an area where guns have not stopped blazing. Kaswa, and speak to Kweku. Hello, Kweku.
Yeah, Nana.
There's been quite a few robberies in Kaswa.
Hello, Nana.
Yes, Kweku, you're on air.
Yeah, the issue is, you see, there is this great divide in this country that we live in. You see, right now, income levels for the poorest at the bottom of the social ladder. If it is not tackled, then all these things are bound to happen. These people are done in school, they don't have any decent work to do. And if these people, they will be enticed to do whatever that they want to do to make ends meet. And then again, the opulence that people in position of power, whether being in politics, whether being state institution, whether being whatever. If you just sit in the traffic and you see, it is just amazing. So an ordinary man on the street who cannot even get cedis to feed his or her family, if he's given 200 cedis, 500 cedis, to be in such an act, there's no way such a person will refuse to take such an offer. So, Nana, we have a big issue in Ghana. That is my humble submission.
We have a big issue at hand. Why is it that the paper bullets seem to be more expensive than the live bullets? I know in Akwemu, I mean, we love our guns, and we are always firing guns, and they are very strict that it has to be the paper bullet. Yeah. Very, very strict. But sometimes when you get guests coming to a festival, you realize they're firing live rounds. And the made as is cheaper than the plastic ones. Is there any way we can make the
others to also comply and also
comply, but at least make the plastic bullet or the paper bullets cheaper? Because they don't need the live rounds, they just want the noise.
The noise, yeah.
But because it's cheaper, they buy the live rounds.
Well, I've noted this. I'm hearing this for the first time, and so I've noted this. I'll bring it to the attention of the authorities and the minister. That is one of the concerns that has reached that, particularly when it comes to the issue of the traditional weapons. I mean, as I was saying, I talk about these nomadic herdsmen, and it's a surprise to a lot of people that things like this can happen, that the whole herds of cattle can enter into a country without detection. I mean, and so what that immediately reveals is that, look, you need to enhance your border protection. You need to take it very seriously.
It's a whole different story.
It's a whole different. I don't know what we can do. Whether we can find a way of. I mean, government must find a way of using technology. If they have to get drones, they have to get it. If they have to get these UAVs, metal detectors. And I know government is doing well. A lot of officers have been recruited from for the Ghana Immigration Service. They still intend recruiting more. And so you find a lot more men along our borders. But we have to find a way. We have a very long, land borders that we need to find a way of introducing some kind of technology into how we man our borders. Because if you go to a flower alone, they will tell you that they have over 56 bits unapproved routes that people can enter Ghana. We are all worried. People have raised issues about the ECOWAS protocol on the movement of persons across the region. It is a concern. I'm concerned as well that we can't sit in our country and get our brothers from the region to come and create all kinds of insecurity situations for us. But it also reveals something that, look, as a state, we also need to take our enforcement measures seriously. I mean, how come our brothers that I don't want to mention, but our brothers are where with the countries that we allege are creating problems? Why are they not creating such similar problems in other countries like Cote d'Ivoire, etc.? It means that we have to do some things right. People live in this country, nobody knows them. They come and go to their country, they exit, they enter, and nobody knows what's happening. So without holding brief, people have raised issue with this ECOWAS protocol. That is what is killing us. People are coming, there's too much influx of people from a particular part of West Africa into Ghana, and they are notorious for, criminality and, dodgy things, and so people think that we have to find a way of
let me take a quick break, and then when I come back, I want to find out, because eventually when ECOWAS becomes one big country, as we are hoping it to be, people will be moving in and out. Does it mean this problem is going to escalate, or should we, check things once they come in? As you just mentioned, if it's not happening in Cote d'Ivoire, why is it happening here? Are we too free, as they say? Again, this stopping of Galamsey, has it also, increased, the idle hands, getting to do things that they are not supposed to do? Let's wait and coming back. Well, thank you very much for staying, and we are talking about a serious matter which is causing life and death issue in the length and breadth of the nation. Guns in the hands of wrong people, some unregistered, some homemade guns. There's been a lot of homemade guns from blacksmiths.
Yeah.
I mean, are the blacksmith allowed to tell the police that, look, Kofi Menu came and I made him a gun?
No, they're not allowed. As a matter of fact, the activity is not even recognized by the state. And so if a blacksmith produces a weapon, they are only allowed to repair. In the LI 200, 1962, they are allowed to repair the firearms.
What's the collaboration now between the commission and the agent? I mean, what are you supposed to give them advice that, listen, this is what we've seen, do A, do B, or do, I mean, who comes to who, and what's the relationship?
Oh, it's a collaboration between us and the police and the ministry and any security. We have a board that is very broad, so we have representatives from all the institutions who are on the board, and so they give various briefs, and that informs what we do. But when it comes to the blacksmithing activity, these are professions that hitherto were very prestigious. Some of them have actually maintained kingdoms. These are the warriors who fight for kingdoms, and they maintain. So, but it's now that, for some reasons, we say that the activities are not acceptable and that they should find a way of doing something else. So there are various schools of thought on how we should handle them.
Would there be another amnesty or another plan or something?
Oh, the amnesty was being thought of, but if the amnesty is in response to what we are saying, we will not achieve any objective. If the amnesty is to get the criminals who have the military type weapons to come and turn them in, or coming, that we won't solve the problem. We can, it's part of strategies in controlling guns in any system. From time to time, there are people who have the, I mean, he has
Are there any practical ways that work? Or it's just, look, catch them?
I mean, what we have, I believe we are also guilty of is that we need to up our education and sensitization. That's the only way. But as for gun control, it's a challenge for every country. And so, I mean, for Britain, they took a decision that for London, they are banning it. And so you find out that right now in London, what you find is knife crimes. But they still allow it in the hinterland on your farm, etc. But in London, guns are banned. So
we are stuck with this situation.
It's a polka disease. It's a decision that is a polka disease. I believe it's not even a polka disease. It's a decision that must be taken by the entire country. We also have people in Ghana.
Look, nobody has a gun.
Yes, we also have people in Ghana who love guns. We have gun enthusiasts, or you don't think we have them?
Of course.
I believe, yes.
Of course.
I've come across people who are gun enthusiasts, who like firing guns. And so it's a debate that we need to have, whether we want to go the British way. They gave it to us. The law that we have, they gave the law to us. But just a quick one to talk about some of the things that have been done, as it were, to try and manage the situation. I believe you are aware that the police has established, what do they call it, a unit where they are on motorbikes and they are sharpshooters. And so the plan is that they'll be deployed in high crime or crime-prone areas, and there'll be a backup. And so when anybody reports of an incident, they will be the first responders, and then if they need a backup, they'll call the nearest team to come and join them. So that is one of the strategies that the police is trying to. Another thing that I think we should let Ghana, I don't know how we're going to do it, but I believe that between the Ghana Police Service, the NCC, the Peace Council, and the Information Services Department, we need to let people be security conscious. For Christ's sake, this morning I listened to JoyNews. First item, somebody had gone to bank to withdraw 900,000 Ghana cedis. For Christ's sake, why? And then when the criminals came, the first person they took out was a police officer. They collected the money. They didn't touch it. They didn't touch the Indian man, and it just went away. So what it means is that we have to be security conscious. We have to know how when to withdraw but these huge sums of money that for whatever reason we have to be cautious. And I can tell you for a fact that most of the crimes, robberies in particular, that are committed, majority of them are based on information.
So what's the way forward for the commission before we end?
Oh, I mean, the commission, we've noticed the gap in the sensitization education. So we're talking to Peace Council and Information Services to start a very vibrant and active public education, particularly in crime-prone and border towns, to let people know what to do when you see we are talking. But the point is that a lot of companies in Ghana really see the issue of gun problem very far away from them. And so, we have what we call the emergency line. So we have the 999, we have the 18555. But you go to other jurisdictions, there's what they call a confidential hotline, where informants volunteer information. We've written to telcos. Look, can you give us one? Because there are some information where some of the informants feel reluctant to share with the police, and they'll feel more comfortable to share probably with the media or with an institution like us. But when we get it, we can process it. It can be useful in preventing some form of crime. And so what I'm saying is that corporate Ghana must support efforts that are, because look, in the peace of Ghana will be your development. If you look at the SDG Goal System 4, it calls for the reduction of illicit arms flows to make sure that conflicts are minimized for development to go on. You understand? So it's something that as a collective, we all need to take a decision. But the whole point is that we have to be security conscious. We should know who to discuss very confidently when it comes to monetary issues, who you talk to. As I said, a large number of people, either your house help or somebody you trust, would have leaked information. Trust you me, this 900,000 that was stolen, somebody probably in that Bogoso factory would have leaked information when they go for the money at the end of the month, because you know it's getting to the close of the month, so you have to go and pay. So somebody has leaked information to the criminals and the robbers, and they just went and bang, they just succeeded and went away.
Jones Boteye Akle, Executive Secretary, National Commission on Small Arms and Light Weapons. Thank you so much for coming. And I always give you this number, 024-366-2001. 024-366-2001. That's Tante's Fashion. They give me the shirts or make me the shirts for the show. You give them a call and get yourself a nice shirt. I want to say lovely good evening to Odeno Kwafakoto the third, who was glued to his TV and watching. He also says he's your mate, so you know.
So I'm privileged to have two chiefs.
Yeah. Well, we'll be back to do this all over again. Thank you very much for watching.
Thank you very much.